Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another FasTrax webinar. Remember, these are going to be every Friday at 10 Eastern, 9 Central. Today, we're going to be going over the employee scheduler. This is a relatively newer feature in the software. It's a great way to schedule employees, keep track of budgeted hours for each store, and then, of course, the employees can print that out and keep track of their schedule. You set the schedule up in Director, and this can be done in both corporate mode and store mode. Corporate, of course, whenever you generate the schedule, it goes to the queue. You send the queue down like any other change at corporate. In the store mode, it's all local. So whenever you make a schedule, it's going to be at that store and only that store. So in a corporate environment, I would recommend that you build the schedule at corporate, send it down. And of course, if you're having your employees or store managers manage their schedule, then at that point, they would build their schedule at the store, and they'd really have to print out the schedule using Director, export that to a PDF file, and then send that via message or email or whatever way to corporate. So let's get to it. To get to the scheduler, we're going to click on the Schedules down here. This screen here, this will show a list of all existing schedules. You can filter by date range, by stores. You can build a new schedule, copy a schedule, edit or view a schedule, print, and of course delete. Before you build a schedule though, there's a couple of prerequisites that have to be completed. First, you have to, of course, have employees. Second, you have to attach employees to stores. And then third, you have to build the store open hours and parameters such as what is part-time hours, what is your store hours, what is the post-opening or post-closing and pre-opening time needed per store. So let's jump into those first. We're going to look at the employees first. So I'm going to click on the maintenance module. I'm going to go to employees, and then I have a list of all my employees here. You would just simply click on an employee, and then there's a default store. That can be the main store that an employee works at. Click the drop down, you can see the available options. You can assign them to wherever you'd like. Now, just because they are assigned to a store does not mean they can't work at another store. Remember, in our software, unless you tell it otherwise, whenever you build an employee at corporate and send that down to store, it's going to go to all stores. So there's a way to manually assign employees that their default store isn't, say, store 1. They can work at store 1. We'll go over that here shortly. The next thing you want to make sure after you've assigned each employee a default store is if they're full-time or part-time. There's a checkbox down here. Checking that and saving it, of course, means that employee is full-time. If it's unchecked when saved, that means the employee is part-time. I've already gone through here and I've assigned several of the employees to locations. We'll do one just to let you see how that's done. Let's say Richard Johnson here. Let's assign him to store 2, and let's make him part-time. So we're going to uncheck that and save. Simple enough. So let's now assign the store parameters. So I'm going to go to the Schedules module. I'm going to click on the Settings tab. And then these are chain-wide settings. So what day does your schedule start on? I can choose the drop-down, and I can select any day of the week. These two go hand in hand, the maximum part-time hours per week and the number of weeks to average part-time hours. This depends on state. So for our purposes here today, I've put 30 hours. Anything over 30 hours is going to be classified as full-time. Anything 30 hours or less is going to be part-time. And the number of weeks to average those hours I've got set to 8. Allow early punches and allow late punches. This is a setting that has recently changed. Before, whenever you built a schedule, an employee that wasn't scheduled on that day could not clock in if they weren't scheduled. Same as if an employee was trying to punch in, say, 20 minutes early, when that set to 15, they couldn't. The problem with that would be, how do you override that if you have someone call in sick or for some reason someone can't be there? Because not all the time, say you have a manager override, not all the time is there a manager at that location. Say the next day is the day your payroll ends. That person then doesn't get paid unless someone at corporate manually, or someone has the permission to manually adjust their time. That was a problem. So what we're doing to address that is we're going to allow people to clock in and out anytime, but if it doesn't fall in their scheduled time frame and it's earlier or later than this, it's going to flag that on that time clock entry and then notify corporate. That's a better way to handle that, because if you have one of those situations where someone called in and someone else is coming into work for their shift, they can clock in and there won't be any kind of payroll issues. Once we have done setting these settings up, we'll click the update. Then we need to look at the store settings. This was chain-wide. This is for the individual stores. So the first time you do this, let's choose store 2. When I click show, the system's going to let me know, hey, there's no settings that's been added for this store. Let's go ahead and add them below. You have your store hours. So I have Monday through Sunday. You have the minimum staff during those store hours. You have the post and pre-opening time needed. That could be for certain tasks, like doing a daily reconciliation before you open, or doing an account before you open. And then post-closing could be doing a count, counting the safe, doing a cycle count, doing a reconciliation. There's a variety of things you can do. Those are set to 30-minute increments. The weekly budgeted hours. This, of course, can be manually set, but if you choose the suggest, which I'm going to go to store 1 because I've already got this set. Let's say I wipe that out and I put 1. When I do suggest, it's going to put in a number there. Where does that number come from? That's actually based on a pretty simple math formula. It comes from the total hours that the store is open every day. You multiply that by the days of the week. So say you're open 7 days a week, and then multiply that again by how many staff is during those hours, and then the post and pre-opening time needed. This would be, so for example, I have 2 during store hours, 2 employees. That means that I'm open 10 hours a day at these stores. Well, 10 times 7, that's going to be 70. Then I have to have 2 people during those shift hours. So 70 times 2, that's 140. And then I have an hour per day when you count my pre-opening and post-closing time needed, plus 7. So remember, it's the total hours per day that the store is open, times the number of days in the week that the store is open, times the minimum number of employees during the store hours, plus that pre-opening and post-closing time needed. That's just a suggestion. You can put in whatever number you'd want. I'll show you a reason for that here momentarily. Now, say that you set your Monday store hours, and your store is open the exact same time every day of the week. You can just click that, set Monday hours as the default for the rest of the week, and it automatically does that. So that saves you a bit of punching and entering in data. So I'm going to go ahead and click Update. That updates and that sets the parameters needed for that store. So now I can build a schedule. If I tried building a schedule, like say for store 2, which doesn't have any of these parameters saved, I'm going to get an error message whenever I try building the schedule. So first and foremost, always make sure that you have gone into the system and set those values and then click the update. That's very important. So let's build a schedule. I'm going to go to the employee schedule screen. I'm going to choose the new schedule. Here is where I'm going to choose the store or corporate, and then what start date. So I can choose when is my schedule going to be effective. I'm going to do it for this week, so that this week started on July 15th. I'm going to click create. And then here's the schedule screen. So there's a couple key things to take note of here. You have the store number, your start date and end date, the budgeted hours that are available, how many hours that have been scheduled up to this point. We have none. You have the employees that are assigned to that store. So that's going to come from the employees that have, whenever we went and edited the employees and we chose the default store, these are all the employees that are set to that store as a default. Then warnings. Warnings is a really cool thing. This allows you to be notified if you don't have an opener, you don't have a closer, you have a gap, you don't have enough employees working in the store whenever you set a minimum number. It lets you know if employees that are full-time have worked overtime. It lets you know if employees that are part-time are working full-time hours. So the key thing, the most important thing here is whenever you're done with your schedule to make sure that there are no warnings. You know that's a good schedule. So let's build a schedule. To do that, it's as simple as clicking on an employee, dragging them, and then they get input to the window. So I'm going to click the next employee. I'm going to drag him down. The white area, this is the store hours. Now notice before we had placed a 30-minute pre-opening and 30-minute post-closing. So our hours were 8 to 6. That means that we're technically going to be scheduling from 7:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. So I'm going to adjust Anthony here down. I'm going to go to the next person. I'm just going to go through and input employees here. Let's do Tim. We're going to go back to the top. And of course, this is just for demo purposes. It's not a real schedule. I'm sure you would have a much better way of doing this because people have availability. So we can see now there's no warnings. That's good. Let's go ahead and we have 77 hours available. Let's go ahead and put in place someone that needs to work that isn't in this store. So I'm going to choose find. This will show all the cashiers, all the employees I have in the system, not just the ones that are associated to that store. So we can see here that I don't have a Kenneth Brown in place. So I'm going to choose Kenneth Brown. He'll be added to that grid now where I can actually utilize him. So I'm going to put him here. And let's say I'm going to put him there. You can see how whenever there's overlap, it just simply shrinks that person in the grid. So it's a very intuitive design. Now, another thing to take note of, as we're doing this, we can see each employee, how many hours they have. So this gives you a good idea of how many hours you're assigning to that person in this 1 week. Let's do back to Anthony up here. There's a good message. You see, I tried dragging Alfred here. He's already assigned. So let's go to Anthony here. We'll put him. We'll do Daniel there. We've got 10 hours available left. And we can see we have 147 hours. Perfect. Let's say that I schedule 30 minutes over. I'm immediately warned that I've exceeded budgeted hours. So that's a warning. We want to address that. It's going to let us know here and there. Now let's save this. So we know that schedule's saved. Let's say that I'm going to remove, I'm going to put Kenneth working a really long shift. Same thing there. I've already exceeded budgeted hours. Kenneth is at 25 hours. Let's remove Tim there. I'm going to extend Kenneth. Kenneth is a part-time employee. He's now worked over 30 hours. That's no good. So the system's going to warn me anytime that I break rules. He's red. It's easy to identify. So remember, once again, part-time employees, if they're working over their part-time hours that you have set in the system, this will happen. Same with full-time employees. If you have a full-time employee and they are working over 40 hours, then you're going to be notified. I'm going to go ahead and close this. I'm going to reopen that by choosing the edit view. There's our good complete schedule. I didn't save the incorrect changes we had made. So if I want to print this out, I simply hit the print. I print the full schedule. There's my schedule. I can then go up here to the export report. And just so you know, this is kind of this way across the entire system. Every report we have comes up in this report viewer. It's known as Crystal Reports. You can email the report. You can print the report. What a lot of people don't know is you can export the report. And you can choose this drop down here to save file type as. I can save it as a PDF file, an Excel file. There's two different Excels. There's an Excel and Excel data only. When I choose Excel, it's going to save this file as where it looks like this in Excel. So we'll go ahead and do that. I'm going to save this to my temporary folder. Export completed. We're going to open that up real fast. That's what it looks like. So it looks just like in Crystal Reports, except it's in Excel. I can, of course, manipulate data. Now, there is another Excel option we'd seen, and it's the data only. We'll see the difference in this. Whenever I go to data only, it's going to give me just the data. So there's benefits to both. A lot of times, whenever you only care about the data, you can use the data only, and this allows you to manipulate this data much easier, much faster. You can use this for any report too in the system. So that department sales reports, register Z reports. If you just care about the data and not the structure of the report, this is a great tool to use to manipulate that data. So we're going to go ahead and close this. So we printed the schedule. If we're ready to send this down, we'll go to the queue. There's all of our information. We've made changes. I would just hit hit send all now, and that would send that data to store one. I'm going to go ahead and open up, since store one is already on this machine, I'm going to open up my point of sale. I'm going to log in, and this is what the cashier would see. Upcoming schedule. So we can see from our home screen that there is an upcoming shift for John Doe. I can print this out. It would print out on a printer. That way John can carry this home and keep a physical copy. I can also view details, and I can view the entire schedule. So this way, if my buddy calls up and he doesn't know when he's supposed to work, he forgot, I can immediately tell him what it is just by going to this in the point of sale and viewing that data. And I can print this out as well too. You can choose the drop down, and if there's other schedules that are built, you can view all of those schedules. So I can look at my upcoming schedule. It's a great way to plan for the future. I'm going to go ahead and close this. So let's say that I like this schedule. It works really well. There's no opposition to it. I can just simply copy that. I can schedule this for the next week, create, and then there everything is. If it's good, I can save that, and I'm done with next week's schedule. Simple enough. Alrighty, well, that is what I had for the employee scheduler today in this webinar. I hope you learned some good information, and I look forward to seeing everyone next week. Remember, it's going to be weekly, 9 a.m. Central Time, 10 a.m. Eastern, every Friday. And if you can't make these will be up on the website generally about 30 minutes after the session is done. Just simply navigate to goftx.com, go to our Lifeline page. When you scroll down, there is the webinar. Just simply click that link, and then there's a listing of all the webinars you can join, register for, and then whenever it's done, like last week's, you can simply click that view recording and then view what you'd missed. We're going to keep these up because this is great training material, great way to review, in addition to all of our other resources, which are updated on a regular basis. So on the Lifeline page, just click on the product that you're wanting information on, like for example, documentation or videos. Here is all of our documentation, lots of information there, and then all of our videos, which are updated on a regular basis. And there's lots of videos being added. So I thank everyone for joining, and I look forward to seeing you next week.